Welcome to the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Decker team. I'm Yetta Decker, and today my sidekick is Paul Mussel. Welcome, Paul.
Glad to be on your show.
Well, I'm glad to have you here. And Paul is from Heritage Wildlife Management. And you might be thinking, why on earth would you have somebody managing wildlife on your show? Well, Paul's here to explain all the details of that. And whether you're a city country or a country property, city country, country city, or even just straight city or straight country, you will want to stay tuned because there was a few surprises, as far as I was concerned, about who needs more help with wildlife management.
Yes, we have wildlife in the country and we have wildlife in the city, but it's surprising most of the wildlife is in the city that is doing a lot of damage to properties.
So when you say damage to properties, what kind of things are we looking at?
Well, there's a whole gamut from your raccoons getting into your attics and destroying insulation and leaving feces there and chewing wires to squirrels chewing into your attics, and the same running the gamut to mice getting into houses. There's birds getting into your vents. You have snakes here in Ottawa too. Now we have calls for them getting in the house. So there's a whole gamut of calls we have for wildlife.
Wow. And you said that you have more of those kinds of things in the city than we do the country.
Well,
and I would imagine there's more animals in the country because it's a larger area. So why would we have more of them getting into houses in the city?
Well, in the city, you have a perfect environment. You have lots of food. You have bird feeders. You have garbage. You have fruit trees. You have gardens all there for the food. Then you have where to live. There's brush piles in the backyard. You have houses that they're getting into, and they raise their families in houses. There's trees to live in. There's and then there's no opposition. Out in the country where there's foxes and coyotes and hunters and trappers and lots of owls and hawks.
Okay, so you've got a lot more natural predators.
That's right.
In the country.
Right.
So even though there would be more of everything in the country,
right,
they have more places to go probably just in the natural habitat.
Right. Right.
I would think.
That's right.
And there's also more predators.
That's right. That's just like you said, there's more natural trees out in the country to live, and swamps and forests to naturally live. So that's where they tend to live and raise their families of wildlife and live there. Where in a city, they're raised in houses, and then their families want to go back and live in houses.
Okay, so that's kind of fun. So you just said something that's a little interesting I haven't thought of before. If an animal or a family of raccoons is used to living, say, in somebody's garage attic, which is a pretty common place for them to hang out,
right,
then their family, like the family of raccoons down the line, wants to do that too? Tell me about that.
Well, that's right. So we use humane methods to remove them from houses, sheds, commercial properties, and often that's where they look to go to the next place. Unfortunately, is more.
Because they've already been there.
They've been there, so they keep reinventing ways to get into houses through soffits, through vents on the roof, through chimneys, through any way at all they can get in. That's what the wildlife does.
Wow, and raccoons are pretty brilliant, I'm told.
They are. They're an amazing animal, the way they can climb. They have their, even one paw can reach up onto an eave troughs and swing themselves in, and or a small branch that's overhanging your house to swing off of and get in your house.
Oh, so that would even be a tip, I guess. If we're thinking about tips for you, which is what we want to offer you on this show, is some tips that you can do yourself. And then also, we want to provide to you some details about what Paul does and his company does to make sure that less of these friends, which are friends when they're in the country living in their own habitat, and not so much considered friends when they're in your house and eating your wiring and eating your drywall and all that stuff. And actually, I had a funny little incident when I first moved into a brand new house that we built. It was in the country, so Greeley. And within about a week of living in the house, in our daughter's bedroom on the second floor next to the register was a hole about the size, well, a bit bigger than a loonie.
Right.
And the carpet was missing. The aspenite, the floor sheathing was missing. And there was a hole in the drywall.
Yeah.
So they had literally, in less than a week, come in, and what a mess.
Right.
Brand new.
Brand new.
And they'll eat anything.
That's right. So that probably was a chipmunk, squirrel, or a rat?
I think it was a mouse.
A mouse, okay.
I think so, because we found mice.
Okay.
So I'm assuming it was just a mouse.
Right.
Maybe a family of mice.
Could have been a family of mice, but and often, you know, I hate to say it, but rats get into houses too, and they really like chewing, and they'll chew holes
Maybe
through.
it was a rat. I don't want to think it was a rat
No,
in
I
your
know,
bedroom, okay?
I know.
We don't want to think that,
No,
Paul. So we're
no.
going to stick with the mouse story.
Okay.
Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay, good enough. So what can we do about it?
Well, you have to look at your house. How can you animal-proof them? And that's what we do as a company with our Heritage Wildlife Management Company. We come and look at your house, like you mentioned earlier before, looking at limbs around your house. If we can eliminate easy access for squirrels and raccoons to jump on. We also look at entry points throughout your house, starting from the ground up, from around your basement wall. Is there spots to seal for mice? Is there vents that don't have covers where birds and squirrels and rats can get in through the vent covers? And then we look at the interfaces. Is there spots that are not sealed up tight?
So when we say interfaces, because that sounds like a technical term to me, I don't know about to you that are listening. What do we mean by an interface, Paul?
Two roof lines joined together.
Okay.
So it's quite common where the garage roof line meets the roof line of the main house.
Okay.
And so there's two roof lines meet. So there's a point where raccoons tend to go, and they can go up the roof and then push their way in. And soffits are generally very flimsy, or they can pull them down.
There's a fair bit of flexibility
There's
there.
lots of flexibility. They're fairly light, and they can pull them down or push them in. If roofers don't seal them tight, it's an easy access for squirrels to go right through into your house.
Okay.
Yep.
And then join their family in your attic.
Well, that's right. That's right. Start the family there and invite all their friends in for a party.
Wow. And this time of year, late fall, early fall, is probably where we have a higher percentage of animals in houses?
Well, it is, and especially mice. Mice come in out of the ground, the fields, snow's coming, there's more moisture in the fall often, and they look for a dry spot to come in, especially the rain's coming now in the fall. In the spring tends to be a busy time with babies. So you have baby raccoons, baby squirrels, baby birds, and that's what people want to get them out of their house at that time.
So at nesting, they would also come in, even if they've lived out all winter.
Right.
When they're going through that nesting stage in the spring, you can find an influx of animals in your house too.
That's right. That's right. But you're right, in the fall now that they're looking to hibernate, everything is looking for a spot to get in for the winter. The skunks are looking for a spot for the winter. The raccoons are looking to hibernate. So that's the time to look for your house.
Wow, okay. And so we worry about areas where we have two natural spots that join,
right,
where there might be a weakness, I guess,
that's
is
right,
the spot, right?
That's
like
right.
It's an easier entry point. Other than that, what are some of the other specific things that that the animals are going to use as an access point that we want to be aware of?
Sometimes the raccoons use a vent cap, especially the older models, the square ones that are flat.
What do you mean by vent cap?
On the roof, you'll see they're about a foot by a foot, and they'll be up about 4 inches, and they let the air out of your attic.
Right.
So raccoons come along and they just pull them off and go right down through your roof.
They can pull them off?
They can pull them off. So they just pull them off and they go down right through your ceiling.
Okay, and
in
so
your attic.
how typically would a vent like that be installed in such a way so they can't just pull them off?
Well, the models that are installed on majority of homes, they can pull them off. It's because there are only 4 little clips there, and to get them off, they can pull them off. You know, some raccoons. So we run into neighborhoods where that's quite common, and we have to seal all the vent caps off.
So how do you seal them?
Well, we have a wire mesh that we make a solid cover that goes over them, and then we seal it down into the roof so there's no holes for water to get in, and then the raccoons can't use it, or squirrels to get in.
And does it still allow ventilation in the attic?
Oh, it does, very much so.
Okay, because that's obviously a problem, right?
That's right.
We don't, as homeowners, want to solve one problem to create another problem.
That's
and
right.
I've done that before. Haven't you?
At times.
So you're covering it with a mesh. How does that stop the animal from being able to pick it up?
Well, it's solid 1x1 wire mesh that's reinforced and drilled into the roof line.
So it's drilled?
That's right.
Screwed?
Screwed in, caulked, so there's no water can get in.
Okay.
And then the roofs and the squirrels can't get in.
And easier for them to pick it up and pitch it?
Well, no, it's permanent. So you permanently leave it on the roof, so it's 24/7. you have protection from squirrels chewing through it or raccoons ripping them off. So once that's covered up, you're ready to go.
That's good.
Yep.
Is that what I have on my roof now?
Not yet.
Okay, because you've been over there working on my house.
No.
Because I don't want no mice in my house or no squirrels or raccoons, and I think I've had a squirrel.
That's right. That's
because
right. So
I've had him walking over my bedroom ceiling.
Yes.
And it's a little interesting when you hear those little claws. Pretty sure what that sounds like.
Yeah. So we got that all sealed up. We got the squirrels sealed up, the mice sealed up, and the vents all covered. So your house is looking good.
They're not coming back to hang out.
They're not coming back. They're looking good.
Okay, they're going to come back. They're just going to go to the neighbor's house.
That's right.
So my neighbors, if you're my neighbors and you know where I live, you should call Paul immediately. Because they aren't getting into my place anymore, not even my shed. So that's another area that I hadn't really thought of until I put my brand new garden furniture and all my cushions out in the shed, because I really didn't want to store them in the house and have to drag them out in the spring and summer when I was using them. So I just thought, well, I'm going to keep them where I'm going to keep them year round, especially the cushions, so out in the shed. And of course, the problem is the sheds generally aren't sealed so well.
Right.
So I asked you to treat it like a little house, a 100-square-foot house.
That's right. So we went right around and sealed it up and changed the door seals too. There'd been a bit of wear on them, and we look at different opportunities for them to get in, and then we put a reassurance. We put a little poison in there so that if one does happen to get in, that won't end up right in the middle, chewing up all those beautiful mattresses you got.
Well, I wouldn't want that.
No.
Right?
No.
And so you said something interesting. When it comes to the shed, you put a little bit of poison in there to make sure that the mice don't come back. And if they do, they're unfortunately going to perish.
Right.
And I think a lot of us don't want to think about killing our wildlife.
Right.
And so when it comes to all the other animals, I understand you're wild trapping them if we already have animals in our...
We use generally one-way doors. We exclusion work to get them out of the houses. We don't handle very little wildlife. We mainly get them out of the house, and the whole industry has changed now to deal with them humanely. Sort of like the bug industry now, where they have what they do is they have strips where they catch the bugs, they use bait for the bugs, and they don't spray like they used to spray.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's very little spraying done with the bugs. They use pheromones to chase off the bugs. So, and the animal industry is the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're primarily, if you've already got animals, then you want to call Paul so he can lure them out of your house. And once he's lured them out, you want him to seal your house.
That's right.
Is that kind of the answer?
That's right.
Okay. And so you probably have a couple of great stories.
Yeah.
What kind of stories do you have?
Over the years, I had some neat experience. One was the Shinkman Center out in Orleans was being built, and they called in. There was a skunk right in the middle, and it was down, I think it might be the orchestra pit, and they said, don't let it spray because it was full construction, and I got down in there, and it's just me and a skunk, and my live trap, and all of a sudden the construction workers got louder and louder, and I couldn't figure out why, and then I realized they wanted them to spray me, so they kept banging the hammers loud.
They wanted them to?
Oh, I think so. Me and the skunk, and so it kept banging louder, and eventually I talked to this old skunk there and got him into the trap and took him out without spraying, and so that was kind of a neat experience. Another neat one was I got a call. There was a beaver in a swimming pool in Canada, and I went there with my daughter, Christine, and she had a big musky net, and I had my snare pole, and the beaver would slap its tail, and we just got wet and more wet, and then finally I scared the beaver into my daughter's fishing net, and so here she's holding this big beaver in the fishing net, squealing away, and eventually got the snare pole on it into a live trap. We got him out of there, so that was a pretty exciting afternoon.
It would have been very exciting, and you were all a wet afternoon as well as an exciting
really
afternoon.
Really wet, that's right, that's right. So,
and out in Canada.
That's right in the middle off of Canada Lakes. There he was, right in the middle of a swimming pool. Wow,
and I'm thinking something like a beaver, like I would think from the bigger animals, that they wouldn't want to wander into the city.
Well, that's the second call I've had with beaver in swimming pool, and the beaver can sense where there's water, and he got water, and then it was looking at trees and a lot, and then said, maybe that's a small home I can make. So the other call I had, the beaver ripped the liner all out of the inside of the pool, trying to get through the wall and to make a home. So, and it had trees in it, and So
He'd already brought the trees
he
into
brought
the
the trees
pool.
into the pool, and yep.
Because they're industrious and they work quick.
They do. So that was another neat call.
Wow. So if you see any sort of wildlife hanging out in your backyard, you probably don't want to wait until it's in your pool and digging through your liner and into the concrete. You want to call Paul right away. How would they reach you, Paul?
Well, they can contact me, go on to the website, Wildlife Management, Heritage Wildlife Management.com, or my phone number is